So the last question for me is, what do you hope that your readers take away from your book and or books? I know that's a really tough question to answer, but what is it that you want people to take away from you as an author?
I want them to keep taking away what they already take away. I remember very distinctly that, and this is gonna sound really dramatic, but I met, so I have what they used to call Asperger's, it's the high functioning autism. And at one of the Moon, Serpent, and Bone things, which they used to have here when they had them, I met this 19-year-old girl who was a huge fan of my books. She had one of those beat up first editions, you know. I mean, I'm glad she liked it, but she was clearly a little more, like, and I mean this in no negative way, but more on the spectrum than I am. She had, like, you know, some tics and stuff. She was there with all her friends. And I mean, I didn't judge her at all. I was like, I totally get how you're feeling. You're anxious, all that. And she wanted her first edition of Jackie and Craig signed. It was like beat up and ruined. It had obviously seen better days. And I signed it, and she actually said to me, it's like, I love Amy being the autistic girl in the book. She goes, oh, I love Amy so much because she's, you know, very realistic and relatable, and she's not like, you know, oh, super endearingly quirky and all that. She's legitimately got struggles. And she goes, you know, I feel like you present us, meaning autistic people, as some buddies and not some things. And I remember I had my friend Miles with me at the time, and he's not the best at focusing, great guy, but not much of an attention span. I said, hey, can you watch the table for a minute? And then I think I went in the bathroom and just like teared up for a little bit. So I want them to keep taking away that no matter how strange you feel or how weird you are, how off-putting or how whatever, there's other people who can and have felt the same way. And when you express yourself creatively, those same people will find your stuff and feel less alone. And that's what I want people to keep taking away. And my picture book is the same thing. A gay kid in Texas told me, you know, oh, I'm in the closet, I can't really be myself, but I feel like, you know, you understand how it feels like. I mean, yeah, I've never been in your position, but yeah, no, I totally get not really being able to be yourself, you know, and having to hide so much of who you are. So I want them to keep taking that away if I can. And if I, you know, never see a movie, never see any millions of dollars, it still would be worth it, you know, for that. Sorry if that was long-winded.
I wrote my debut, The Monsters Among Us, for a very specific purpose. The main character is a young man who's struggling with bipolar disorder, something I share with him. And the point, what I wanted to accomplish with it was to place the reader into the shoes, into the headspace of that struggling young man, so they could have relatability, they could have some representation in literature, which there is very little of, minus the big favorites like Sylvia Plath and Bell Jar. And I also wanted to make people who don't understand life with neurodivergence, I want them to understand. But ultimately, the story is about this character finding out that his whole upbringing was a facade, and he breaks through that illusion, broken in pieces, and he has to learn how to piece the semblance of his life back together, and even perhaps transmute his pain into strength. And I want readers to understand and learn that that is indeed possible, even with something like bipolar depression, anxiety, what have you.
I love both those answers, and that's my favorite part about being a school librarian is when kids will come in the library and like one girl just like pointed at a picture book and she's like, oh, that's like my hair looks like that, or like that's me, you know, and it's just like that's so yeah, I love that answer. So my book is a mother-daughter story, and the mother-daughter take it in turns telling the story every other chapter. And it was sort of this idea that you can't protect your kids from this idea that the world will hurt them. But ultimately it's a story of hope, and I think that's what I would want readers to take away from it. It's just like the hope and the love in it.
So for this question, I'm gonna jump to my middle grade fiction book, Paisley Untethered. So on the surface, this book is a middle grade children's fiction book. It's a story about a dog. It's a story about a year in a dog's life written from the perspective of a dog. There's funny one-liners in there, there's jokes, it's parts of it are hilarious. it starts sad and gets happy because I wasn't going to write another sad dog book to add to the list of a million other sad dog books. But essentially, if you read this with your child as an adult, reading with your child, or even just read it as an adult, there are all these underlying themes that start to surface, from PTSD, coping with PTSD, coping with anxiety, coping with all sorts of issues that this dog is facing from being abandoned essentially during a blizzard and basically left for dead. And then as this dog's life starts to change and starts to improve, it's just, I want people to read it and see that some of these obstacles can be overcome and that there is hope and that just happiness is possible even after all of the trauma. So I think that's what I want people to take from Paisley. The sequel to Paisley Untethered, Paisley Protector, comes out next week. So.
Oh.
So I really do believe that reading meets you where you are in your life. When I wrote the book, it was more to entertain. My characters are quirky. There's a lot of kind of campy horror going on. But I wanted it to start conversations. So I'm not sure that I had an intentional, there's lots of themes going through it, like what it means to be human, how important is love. But I really think that I wanted to start conversations with the book. Because it travels so far in history from the 1600s to today, I wanted people to just talk to one another, to kind of start different conversations about things that are going on in the world or things that have happened in the past. So rather than a specific theme, I wanted people to pick out what was meaningful and relevant to them.
I feel like I don't have anything specific to add, really. I agree with all of this. What if I said the exact opposite? It was like, I want my books to make you feel like you are alone. Your voice doesn't matter.
Non-conformist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I agree. Like I said, I agree with everything that's been said. I want my books to, make you feel like your voice does matter, no matter who you are or where you are in life. A few people have told me that my books got them back into reading after very long slumps, which is like the biggest compliment ever. So I don't know. I just want people to find joy and comfort in my worlds. It's like it's the stuff that's in your head, and you're putting it out there, and you're like, come into my brain with me, hey now, And so you want that to be a space of uplifting energy and joy in some way.
I write to make people feel. I try to take them on a roller coaster of emotions, and I write characters that are very real and very flawed, and they have to earn their hero stripes, and they have to go through a lot to get where they are by the end of the book. And I just want people to be able to, I guess it's kind of like what other people have said, to see themselves in these very real people and the struggles they go through and the wins and the losses, and to just feel. I want them to cry. I want them to, I've had people tell me they slam the book into the armchair and they hate me, and then they pick it up and they read the next chapter, and then I made them cry and laugh, and that's all I really want. I want to give people an adventure and a roller coaster of emotions. I want to take them from the highs to the lows, and that's what I hope they take away.
Amen.
These are all just such magical responses.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm like, oh, you guys are all coming on our podcast.